guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. This is Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm your host, Jeff Trunapole, and as always, I bring you sports from a West Side point of view right here in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio, home of the Cincinnati Reds, who just got done sweeping the Tweety Birds. I love it, I love it, I love it. For the first time since 1990. That was a pretty good year. I think they went to the World Series. I think they went wire to wire. But anytime you can beat the Tweety Birds is a great day here in Cincinnati. Now, do me a favor. If you found the show, hit that like and subscribe button. Smash that thumbs up. I'm up to 1,128 subscribers. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell everybody about Sports with Strawberry Ice. Let's try to get that up to 10,000, 100,000, get as many viewers as we can. Now, this show and every show is brought to you by T Properties. T Properties, quality housing for quality people. Check out their website at www.tpropertiesllc.com for all your rental property management needs and your rental needs. All right, guys. So, like I said, we're coming off a 4-game series sweep. Friday, me and Jeff Carr were talking about, I don't know if we're going to do anything, yada, yada, yada. I said, well, they need to do something, and it'd be great if they swept the Tweety Birds. And lo and behold, they did. I'm shocked. So, today's guest from the Cincy Enquirer and Reds beat writer is none other than Bobby Nightengal. Hey, Bobby, how you doing, bro?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for joining. I like I said, we were talking about this before the show started. It's last week. It's, I don't know. Are the Reds going to be sellers, or are they going to be in this thing at all? And then turn around. Jesse Winker hits 3 home runs. The Castellanos has a 21-game hitting streak. We actually had starting pitching. Our bullpen was, we had 2 guys out of the bullpen that were good, but the rest of them, nah. But they won 4 in a row. I mean, this season goes up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of just the division as a whole. I mean, I think every team's kind of fit into that. The Cubs have had their ups and downs. The Cardinals obviously down just because of all the injuries they have right now. The Brewers were down for a bit. Now they're as hot as any team in baseball. And then the Reds, they went into the series 7 back. You got nervous. It was almost like yeah. It was like, by the time Votto gets back, Moustakas and Zell, are they already going to be out of it?
Right.
That was a huge weekend.
Yeah, they started 7 back. They're 4 out now. I mean, that's what's I've said this before. That's what's so frustrating about this team, that if they would have done a little bit more in the offseason, we would be in this all the time. I mean, they literally had a bullpen where they had 2 guys this whole series that they could count on. I mean, Armin Garrett did not even pitch, and he was supposed to be, our stud, our closer, our breakout guy, and he didn't even see the field at all for 4 games in St. Louis, and that includes a game where we had a 7-run lead, which we ended up losing in 1 inning, but that's beside the point. But what does that say about Garrett and where he's at and how David Bell feels about him right now?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I mean, it's just the Cardinals don't have many left-handed hitters. I mean, you look at like Goldschmidt, Arenado, Tommy Edmonds, a switch hitter, Dylan Carlson's a switch hitter. So there's not many favorable matchups. He's only pitched once against the Cardinals this whole year, including, that first series of the season. Then the Reds got swept in St. Louis in April. So he's only pitched against them once this whole year. So it's one of those, I think they want to stay away from him matchup-wise. Sean Doolittle only pitched once, too. And he didn't record an out when he did. So I think it's one of those they wanted to stay away from their lefties if they could. But obviously it says they don't trust him against right-handed pitching right now, which, it's just kind of the way his season's been going. He's struggled a lot more than anyone kind of expected. I think David Bell still has a lot of faith in him, but it's one of those, let's just make sure we're sticking to the matchups that favor him the best to get him back on track versus putting him in a tough situation where he gets hit around a little bit more.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's actually a good point. I didn't even think of it that way, but that just goes to, I guess, if you've ever watched my show, I've never been a big David Bell fan, but to be honest, I think David Bell managed this past weekend perfectly. I don't know what else he could have done. I mean, he went to set the tone Friday night. He went straight to Anton and straight to Sims to get that win. Now, Luis Castillo, I do that every time. Luis Castillo pitched his best game of the year. So that helped a ton. And they were able to, patchwork the bullpen to the end. And that gave Sims and Anton a day off. But just the way he managed it and the way he wasn't, to me, he's starting to become a manager, I think. At least it seems like to me this year. Like when he first started, every game was Game 7 of the World Series. You know, he'd get pitchers in and out, move this guy, double switch this guy. It seems like he's more letting the players play a little bit more. How do you feel about how Wade David Bell has been doing this year?
Yeah, I agree kind of to that extent. I mean, I thought the first year he rode the bullpen as hard as possible. Yeah, it was almost like you could tell by August, it was like these guys are really going to be worn out. Just he kept it'd be like using Antone, trying to use him every game. Limits to what you can do with those guys. I mean, Antone, he's a starter by nature, but now he's in this relief role. Like Josh Hader, when Josh Hader was with the Brewers and he was using some other role, he pitched every other, like he wouldn't pitch back-to-back days, no matter what. And so I think that's kind of what the Reds were hoping to do with Antone is, obviously they weren't hoping to use him Sunday when they had a 7-run lead, but got forced to using him. But it's one of those, I think it's by necessity. I mean, injuries are kind of forcing it out of the bullpen. Sims and Antone are obviously the two guys you trust the most. Help starters do a lot better. I thought the one move he could have made was keep Miley in for one more inning on Sunday. But also you have to look at the flip side is you had a 7-run lead. I mean, if you can't trust your bullpen with a 7-run lead, you don't have a bullpen. So I don't take fault with it, but I could see, Wade Miley threw 5 shutout innings. I could see why you'd want him to go one more.
Right, exactly. And well, the thing is too is this is one thing I've been thinking about. Just think, speaking of the 7-run lead we had, how differently would we be talking about this series if the Reds had lost yesterday? If they, because it wasn't like the Cardinals just chipped away at the lead. It was all in one inning, and it was all against their bullpen. They scored 7 runs in one inning to tie the game up, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me! I'm just freaking out here. Like going, you guys. I mean, they scored 5 runs before they had 0 out. They had nobody out. Scored 5 runs, and I'm just like, this cannot be actually happening. But luckily, Steph hit his home run of the game. But how differently would we be talking about this series right now if they had lost? Not the fact that they lost the game, but just how they would have lost it.
Yeah, I mean, I think going into the weekend, if you would have said, hey, they take 3 out of 4, I think everyone would have been happy with that. Just the Reds where they were at in their season, I definitely think everyone would have been happy with 3 out of 4. But losing that way, a 7-run lead, you can't lose those type of games, especially when you're in a tight division like they are. I mean, it's going to come down to September. I don't see any team pulling away and winning the division outright. I mean, they're lucky they're not in the same division with the Dodgers and the Padres and the Giants and some of those teams. So I think it's going to be jam-packed, and I think it's one of those you can't afford to lose games that you shouldn't be losing. And fortunately for the Reds, they've had a few of those. I think back to the Arizona Diamondbacks home series when they got swept by the Diamondbacks at home. That was one where I felt like they should have won all 3 games and they let them all slip away. But other than that, they basically won all the games they should be winning when it gets to the late innings. And then they obviously lost their share of games too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that Arizona Diamondbacks, they for some reason we can't beat them. And I don't know if you tweeted out or somebody tweeted out the Reds record. Basically, they have a winning record against every division, including the American League, except for the NL West. Everybody else, I think, we're above 500 on.
And the crazy part about the NL West is they took 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers too.
Right, exactly. And they never play good out there. I mean, just like the beginning of the season, we started out, 6-1, and then we go out west and we lose 7 in a row. So I mean, yeah, going out west has always been hard for the Reds. But let's talk about Jesse Winker, the Wink. What a game yesterday! 3 home runs, and that's the second time this year he's hit multi-home runs in a single game. Did people underestimate him as far as his power and how good of a major player he has become? Because not only has he improved offensively, he's also improved defensively as well.
Yeah, I mean, he just keeps getting better, and I think that's a tribute to his work ethic and what he keeps doing each year. I don't know if people underestimated him. It was just he had never hit for power that much, and there were some reasons for that. He had a wrist injury in the minor leagues, kind of had to figure out major league pitching. But I remember talking to Joey Votto in 2019, I think, early 2019. He says, hey, if Winker ever starts hitting for power, he's going to be one of the best hitters in the National League, and you're seeing that now.
Oh, yeah.
He leads the league in homers. I don't know if anyone would have predicted that, where he's leading the league in homers more in June. But he's always been a great hitter. He's always been a guy who's going to get on base a ton. Kind of has a little bit of Joey Votto in him, where both have a high average. They're going to get a high on base percentage. So he's always had that. Now that he's hitting for power, I mean, that unlocks a huge part of his game. And you're right, he has improved defensively. I mean, he's not a Gold Glove winner, but he used to be
awful.
There when a ball went to him, you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
But now you don't even notice him in left field, and I think that's kind of a credit to him, is you don't even notice that he's out there.
Yeah, that's the same thing with Nick Castellanos too. I mean, he made a great running catch. Yes, I mean, he probably ran, I don't know, 50 feet to catch that right at the warning track. I don't think he makes that. I don't think Nick Castellanos makes that catch last year, because that's another thing where I think he's improved his all-around game too, as well, as far as offense and defense, because neither one of these guys look to be like trying to lift and separate. They both just keep talking about trying to hit the ball hard somewhere. And if you look at Castellanos, a lot of times if the pitch is outside, he'll shoot it to right field. He's not trying to pull it off. And I think the same thing with Winker. Where the ball's pitched, they're just trying to hit it hard somewhere. And if it goes out, it goes out. And I think that's a key that more major league players should try and do, because that's what they used to do when I was a kid. I mean, Pete Rose always said, hit the ball hard somewhere, hit it back up the middle. Tony Perez, see the ball, hit the ball. They didn't try to do anything extra with it. And that's where I think it's a testament to what these guys, the hard work they've put into, and how it's working for them. And I think other major league players should take notice of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easier said than done. Though. I mean, I think Nick Castellanos, there's a reason he got paid $64 million when he signed his contract with the Reds. There's a reason why, Jesse Winker was a high draft pick, and people kind of predicted that he was always going to be a guy who could hit. They didn't know he could hit for power, but they knew he could hit. But those guys take advantage to all fields. And I think it's especially impressive that, they're both hitting above 350. And this year, and recent years too, but this is the hardest era to get a base hit now. I mean, obviously a lot of guys are selling out for power, trying to hit more home runs. You hear about it with launch angle and exit velocity, but it's not easy to get a base hit anymore with the shifts and everything else that is along with the game. And these two guys are just trying to make it look easy. I mean, 350 batting average. Jesse Winker, he was on base in half of his plate appearances this past weekend. Yeah,
exactly. I got a graphic here. Here it is. This is Jesse Winker right now. 305 average, 17 home runs, and a 1,077 OPS. I mean, that's ridiculous. And like you said, especially right now with the shifting and everything, that's not easy to do. I'm like, excuse me, like I said, they're making it look easy, but it's not. It's not easy at all. It's fun to watch them play. It's fun when the Reds are playing like this and they're winning. Obviously, it makes it a lot more fun. But there's still a glaring hole in this bullpen. And I'll bring this up here that Orange Arrow had this comment here. He goes, even though we won, there are questions still needs to be answered about the bullpen. And that's my question is, do you see them, or are you hearing anything about them going out and getting somebody or bringing up somebody from the minor leagues? Like we talked about before the show started, and I already forgot his name. I asked his name. The kid who struck out 7 or 8 batters.
Tony Santino.
Yes, thank you. Tony Santino. Any talk of bringing him up? Any talk of trying to make some trades or anything? Have you heard anything like that?
Nothing imminent, but I mean, they have been trying to address it. I mean, you look at like Keith Hembry, he's been pretty decent in the bullpen, had his rough patch lately, but started off the year really well. I mean, he was not a waiver claim, but a guy they added right at the end of spring training. Brad Brock, they signed right before the minor league season began, and called him up. So they tried different things. I think Vladimir Gutierrez, if Jeff Hoffman didn't get hurt and wasn't created in the rotation, I definitely think Vladimir Gutierrez was kind of the next guy up in the bullpen if there was an opening there. So I thought he was pretty close. Tony Santillan, same thing. I think he's as close to the major leagues as you can get for a guy at AAA. I think he's just waiting for a spot to open up. But, even like Ryan Hendricks, who got called up. I mean, he has nasty stuff. He pitched a scoreless inning after the kind of the debacle in the 6th inning yesterday. I think he pitched the 7th, which was important. I mean, you give up another run after that, it's a pretty deflating feeling once you give up the lead.
Right.
He did a good job holding on to it. So they're trying different guys. I mean, they've rotated Jose De Leon, he walked a ton of guys and got sent down. Cianel Perez, they've tried a lot of different things with him, and he's still walking too many guys, and he gets sent down. Cam Bedrosian, he got cut pretty early into the season. So I mean, they're rotating through a lot of bullpen guys. It's just seeing what guys stick and what guys don't. But if they're say they're a little bit closer, say they're leading the division in July, I definitely think you have to make a move to get a reliever to, and also to help. Michael Lorenzen should be back in the next few weeks, and that'll be a big boost to the bullpen too.
Yeah, my only issue is, and this is where I hope the ownership is thinking like this, because there's only certain years, so many years that you have a chance to win. And this year, the Reds have a team that can win. They can go to the playoffs. How far they go to the playoffs, I have no idea. But they have a chance to make it. And to me, this is where ownership needs to step up. Like Bob Castellini, when he bought the team, he says he's going to bring championship baseball back to Cincinnati. Well, this is a year that he can bring it back. And then he handcuffs the front office, so they got to get rid of players, and they got to do less, spend less money, but he still wants to win, which doesn't really make any sense in this age of baseball. So we're here now, and this team is trying like crazy. I mean, they are all in. They are trying as hard as they can to win. David Bell, like I said, David Bell is managing his butt off. To me, Castellini needs to tell Krall, go get me somebody. And we go get, some proven guys, not guys that, we picked them up from here. They were okay. Yeah. No. So I know easier said than done, because everybody wants proven guys. That's why they should have done the offseason. But that's where I'm just like, this is what I want them to do. And I think most Reds fans want them to do this, is go all in. When you have a shot to win it, go for it. And I hope Bob is thinking that, but I don't know. The way he wanted to do the offseason, I'm not sure if they're thinking that way or not.
I mean, I definitely think, and I talked to Nick Castellanos actually about it about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Last year they did go all in. I mean, they spent more money than they did in the previous decade combined in free agency, getting Moustakas, Castellanos, Shogo, and Wade Miley. They went on and traded for Trevor Bauer. They traded some of their top prospects. They weren't afraid to do that. And if the offense hits like it is now, and they still had the pitching they had last year, Castillo was at his peak. Trevor Bauer, obviously a Cy Young season. Sonny Gray. I mean, that's a team that had legitimate World Series aspirations if they could have hit last year. Unfortunately, it was a 60-game season. Nobody could predict that, and they didn't hit at all. And they lost them a chance in the playoffs. I mean, they pitched as well as anybody could against the Braves when they got swept out of the playoffs. So I think the commitment's there. I understand why they cut payroll this offseason. The pandemic was there. I think the best sign, though, is they're back to 100% capacity, I think, sooner than anyone would have expected. I think going into the season, you were like, maybe by the All-Star break, you can have full fans back in Great American Ballpark. The fact it's June and you're able to do that, I think can only help in saying, okay, if we save some money during the season, now we're going to have a little bit more revenue. Maybe we can make some more moves as things get back to normal too in other businesses.
Right. Let's hope so. I just don't want them, because to me, like right now they're playing so good. I want them to capitalize on this, because you got another big series coming up here against Milwaukee. Milwaukee is first place right now. You got Cubs and Milwaukee are flipping back and forth between first and second place. So this is another big series coming up for the Reds. And again, and I hate to say, make or break, but I really do think it is, because this team is proven, they can win 6 in a row, and then they can turn around and lose 7 in a row. So, they could go and sweep St. Louis and then turn around and get swept by Milwaukee. And that's what I don't want to happen. That's where I'm like, I always feel like they do something to give this team a shot in the arm, a boost, saying, hey, we're with you. You guys are doing good, and let's get you some help. It would be nice if they do that. I know one of my loyal listeners, Crown Apple Kid, is dying for them to bring up Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo. Now, I don't think either one of them Nick Lodolo probably in my mind is more ready than Hunter Green. I don't know. What's your thoughts on bringing those two up? And
well, I think first of all, the fact that they're both dominating at Double-A, that's huge news. If you can develop pitching on a consistent basis, it's the reason the Cardinals have been so good for so long. It's the reason why Cleveland's been so good for so long. If you can develop pitching, that's huge for the organization, no matter what timeline they get called up. No, I think they're further away than people probably want him to be. I think maybe at the end of the season, if they keep pitching well, there's a chance. But, Hunter Green, he made a spring training start. He got beat around in the first inning. Nick Lodolo, every time he's pitched at the big league level, not every time, but most of the time he's pitched at the big league level, he's been hit around as well. And, it's a big jump. They're dominating AA hitters, but you also have to remember they're facing AA hitters. Right. They're not facing big leaguers yet. So I think there's a big jump that they still need to make. And, you look at like Jose Garcia. They rushed him last year, kind of out of necessity. They didn't have a shortstop.
But still don't have a shortstop.
Now he's back in AA. So,
right.
But it was one of those, you can't crush the kid's confidence. You don't want to call up Green. He comes up, he has a 9 ERA, and then it kind of, takes him a year to recover mentally to say, okay, I still have my stuff and all that. I think they're going to be a little bit more patient. I think like Tony Santillan at AAA, I think he's a lot closer, and I think he's a lot more ready for the big leagues. And like Vladimir Gutierrez, they waited on him, and I think he's a lot more ready now than he would have been last year.
Yeah, Vladimir Gutierrez, I mean, I guess that's kind of the shot in the arm I'm talking about, because, I mean, honestly, when he came up, it seems like the pitching staff started turning around. I mean, no, he didn't pitch lights out, but he pitched really good in his first 2 major league appearances ever against some 2 really good ball clubs. And that is, I don't know if that's the shot in the arm that this pitching staff needs, because like right now, hopefully they keep pitching like they are, but right now, or up in this last week, we've had 5 pretty solid starting pitchers, and that's the first time we've had that all year. And if you can get 5 solid starting pitchers going at least 5-6 innings, then that makes your bullpen that's not that good, not as you don't have to rely on them as much. So, I mean, I think that was a good thing that he came up here. What are the chances you think that what's your thoughts on Gutierrez? Like, how's he been looking? What's your thoughts on Gutierrez? I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I thought he's handled it well for a guy that, he's only 2 starts into his big league career. He looks a little bit more experienced than that. He's attacking hitters, which is good to see. His velocity is actually lower than it usually is. I mean, I've been surprised. Chicago was really cold and really windy, so it didn't surprise me there. But St. Louis, it didn't jump up like the way I thought it would. But usually he's closer to like the upper 90s. And if he gets up there, that just makes his pitchers that much tougher. But yeah, he's been a nice addition. Obviously, it's helped that, he came up at the same time, like Castillo starting to look a little bit better. Sonny Gray, he's been up and down, that he's being a little bit more consistent. So it's just one of those, Jeff Hoffman started off the season well, then started to fade. And I thought it was a good job by Gutierrez. He's doing the most to kind of keep that job, even when Hoffman's back in a few weeks.
Oh yeah, I mean, honestly, my opinion right now, if he has another start like he's had the last 2, me personally, I don't think about the rotation. I'll put Hoffman in the bullpen, and that might be, maybe that's better suited for Hoffman too. Who knows? Because when you're in the bullpen, you don't have to pace yourself as much. You can throw as hard as you want. Because you're only out there for an inning or 2. So maybe that would help him. I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate possibility. I mean, Hoffman was in the bullpen for the Rockies last year, didn't start any games. So I think that's possible. And even if the Reds flipped it the other way and Gutierrez ended up in the pen, I think either one of them, strengthens the bullpen one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I know some people are talking about the Reds rebuild that we just went through, and none of us want to rebuild again, and talking about how, we didn't get, 9 all-star players or whatever, like the Cubs did and the Astros did when they rebuilt. But this is just, one of my buddies sent me this. This is what the top prospects for the Reds are right now, and they're all moving up. And Hunter Green went from 97 to 61. Jose Barno, he was previously 74 ranked, 71. I think you can go down the line. They all have moved up. I mean, Lodolo wasn't even ranked. So these are all from the American Minor League top 100 prospects. So this is a good thing for the future as well. And to me, those are your top ones. So those are ones that you don't trade. But there are guys that are down in the minors that they could possibly trade to try to get some bullpen help. I know I keep talking about that, but to me, the bullpen is the biggest problem with this team. And it might be, if you get Hoffman and you put him back in the bullpen, or Gutierrez, either way, I mean, if you can just get at least two more guys that you can actually count on. If they can ever get Garrett straightened back out, two more guys down there with Anton and Sims, that changes the bullpen completely around.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the thing that every good team could always use better relievers. You look at like a team like the Milwaukee Brewers. That's why they're so successful. You have Devin Williams and Josh Hader. They have some good relievers in front of them, but they have a lead after the seventh inning. The game's over with those two at the back. The Reds haven't been able to use Anton and Sims. They can't save them just for the back, just because they need more consistency in the fifth and sixth innings too. So that's kind of where I think Michael Lorenzen could step in, and Jeff Hoffman or Vladimir Gutierrez, one of those two, or if they're in a position to add at the trade deadline, obviously I think that's where they have to do it, is address the bullpen a little bit more, find some reliever. Obviously Amir Garrett, if he figures his stuff out and kind of gets back to where he was. That was supposed to be a three-headed monster back there, and it dropped to two, but I think it's not as dire as it seems as right now. Obviously, they had a bad Sunday, and they have the highest ERA in the majors right now, bullpen ERA. But I do think there's arms that are on the way, like Lorenzen, like Garrett, who should improve. I can't imagine he's this bad all season, where things will turn around at least a little bit for the bullpen.
Yeah, Garrett's the one that's been so frustrating because his velocity isn't down. It's kind of like him and Luis Castillo are kind of like, they look like the same people. Like Castillo, I think his biggest problem is he hasn't been fooling people on his changeup like he was earlier. Garrett, I don't know what it is, because he just, everything he's throwing, it's like grooved right down the middle. I mean, you can throw it 100 miles an hour to a Major League Baseball player and they're going to hit it out, So Garrett has been very frustrating to try to figure out what's going on. People say, "Oh, he talks too much. He does this." He's always talked a lot. I mean, that had nothing to do with it. It's kind of silly to talk a lot when you're getting your ass kicked. But I don't know. I'm hoping. I thought he was starting to turn around, but then he had that last outing. I think it was against the Phillies where we had. I'm trying to remember. We were close or within one run, I think, or was tied. He gave up like 3 runs or 2 home runs in 1 inning or something like that.
Yeah, gave up a homer to McCutchen, I remember. Yeah. But what's weird about him is he's not even pitching that well against left-handed hitters. And traditionally throughout his career, that's been, maybe he struggles against righties, but he's always dominated lefties, especially with his slider. And this is the first season where he hasn't done that. So I don't know if it's a mechanical thing, like you said. I mean, the stuff's there. It's not like he suddenly can't throw his slider or his fastball lost a ton of velocity. Just the execution's not there. And it's the same thing with Luis Castillo. As you mentioned, his changeup's just not getting as many swings and misses, and I think that's thrown off him a lot. And every mistake he's leaving over the plate is getting hammered. So it's one of those that they both have the talent. It's still like you look at like all the guys who struggled last year in the 60-game season. I mean, this is still the first 60 games of the season. So I wouldn't make any grand conclusions like Castillo's not going to be good anymore, or Garrett's not going to be good anymore. There's still a lot of season. You look at like Michael Lorenzen, who had the terrible start to last year, 2020, and he was able to save his season by turning it around at the end. So it's one of those. There's enough time left where those guys can figure it out. It's just the team can't afford them to wait too long before they do figure it out.
Right. That's the thing. And that like I said, going into, I know it's June. We keep saying it's early. But like Joe Votto says, it's getting early late around here because we were just 7 games out. That's why I really do think this past series with the Tweety Birds was a must win. This Milwaukee series to me is a must win. I mean, they have to come in there and keep this momentum going, because if you don't, like I said, everybody's so tight in this division. Like we said at the beginning of the show, a week ago we're 7 games out. Now we're 4. We go into Milwaukee. You could be 7 games out, or you could almost be in second place by the time you leave here. So to me, I hate saying it's a must win here in June, but I think it is. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, you have to beat up on your division rivals. I mean, that's the way to do it, to climb up in the standings. And they did it against St. Louis. Milwaukee, they've won 9 out of their last 10, I believe. So I mean, they're a hot team, unlike the Cardinals, who were kind of fading when they played the Reds and had all the injuries pile up. They're going to play a hot team, and it's going to be a tough challenge for them. But when you're playing at home, you have to win series. So I think if winning 2 out of 3, it would be a good news for the Reds. You sweep them, obviously that's the cherry on top. But then you have the Rockies afterwards too. So it's like you could carry a lot of momentum if you series against the Brewers.
Yeah, the problem is you say after the Brewers, we go out west again. So, and then we've already said how we haven't done that good against Arizona. Well, hell, we didn't do that good against the Rockies last time out in Colorado either. So to me, that puts even more of an emphasis on how big this series with Milwaukee is. They have to win, 2 out of 3 at least. If we get all sweep them, that'd be awesome. But that rolls into, like I said, you gotta win the series that against your divisional opponents. You have to win those, and the Reds are still one of the better teams at home. I mean, that's still a thing. So they have a very good shot, I think, of carrying this momentum into the season or into the series, and it's gonna be fun to watch. And we need the next person who's got to step up for the Reds as far as the starting pitching go is Sonny Gray. Now, I don't think he pitched all that bad last time. He just had a couple mistakes here and there, and the Reds offense couldn't capitalize on the opportunities that they were given. But Sonny Gray is still not pitching like the Sonny Gray of last year. So if we can get him going and Luis Castillo going, this could be a fun summer after all. But you think Sonny Gray is getting closer to the old Sonny Gray, or what's your thoughts on him and his season so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's been hard to tell. He's just kind of been inconsistent. I mean, he's had some great starts and some not so great. But, going into the season, it was like, okay, Reds starting pitching. Luis Castillo is going to be an ace, and Sonny Gray is going to be right there with him. And then you just hoped Tyler Mahle could take a step forward and Wade Miley would be healthy and could provide some big innings. And as it turned out, Tyler Mahle's been fantastic. Wade Miley's been even better. I mean, he everything they could have hoped. And the two guys they thought were going to be the studs at the top of the rotation have struggled. So it's one of those, if those guys turn it around, I think that changes your whole season. A lot's riding on Sonny Gray. He knows that. I mean, he knows he can pitch better than he has. And it's one of those, he started the season late because of an injury. I think it took him a little bit he didn't really have a spring training either to kind of feel out for the start of the season. So it's one of those, maybe he's kind of, this is his April now, just because he didn't have a spring training.
Right, exactly. And how good a move did you? And I keep on telling I'm just praising David Bell left or right here, which is very unlike me here. But how good of a move was it to put Jonathan India at leadoff? I loved it. I think it was. I mean, I couldn't stand Gino being up there, but I understood why he did it, trying to get Gino some more fastballs and Jesse Winker and Nick Castellanos behind him. But moving Jonathan India up there, I think it was a great move. I think India actually likes it. I think because he said that after the game, I think Saturday, it was an honor for him to lead off. But I really like that move and just how Jonathan India has. I think he's made an adjustment. He's not the leg kick guy anymore. He's the toe tap guy. But that's what you have to do to be a Major League Baseball player. They come up, they see you, you start hitting like crazy, they make adjustments. He's made the adjustment. I think that is great news for him and the Reds moving forward.
Yeah, I think if he can hit like he did, just has this past month, how he did in the first week of the season, that's huge for the lineup. I mean, that's just lengthening it out a little bit more, especially with Moustakas and Senzel out. I mean, that's huge what he's been doing. Votto, he's probably back tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to see how David writes his lineup out tomorrow, just knowing Votto's usually been hitting, I think, third. Winker leadoff, Castellanos second, Votto third. Be interesting if he goes back to that or does something different with Votto. But just having India hit the way he has, I mean, that's huge. I mean, Suarez at some point you have to think is going to be a better.
I would hope so.
Hitter.
He's another one that I'm like, all right, looks like he's getting out of it, and then he goes 0 for 6, and then he hit a home run. I think that he really didn't do a whole lot this weekend. I mean, he did hit a home run, which was a big hit for them at the time. But let's get back to Votto. Normally I think he's been at the 3-hole, but my opinion, actually, we'll see what David Bell does. My opinion, I think you put Votto either at 4th or 5th hole, and I think that also depends if Nyquin is back in the lineup, because I know he tweaked his hamstring or something, because he's been hitting 4th a lot too. So my personal opinion, I think Votto is going to hit 4th or 5th. Anyway, where do you think they'll put him at?
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. I mean, I think when Joey's hitting well, obviously you want him at the top of the lineup just because of his on base percentage. He's hitting for more power this year, but to have him on base in front of Winker or Castellanos would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But coming back from an injury, it'll be interesting to see how he mixes with everybody. I mean, you don't want to put India all the way down at the bottom either. You don't want Quinn hitting seventh or anything like that. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits back in. I bet I would guess Winker, Castellanos, it goes back to the traditional way.
Hey, I could definitely see that too, because hell, Winker and Castellanos were batting 1-2 for 90% of the season so far. So yeah, I could totally see that too, of putting him back there. But I like Jonathan India at the leadoff spot, and because he also does have a little bit of speed too. This team does not have speed whatsoever. He does have, so there is the element of maybe he can actually steal a base if he gets on base. I think the Reds are, if not the worst, one of the worst teams as far as stealing bases go in baseball this year.
Yeah, India, when he's doing well, he almost reminds me of what you kind of hope to get from Nick Senzel. Mm-hmm. Has that speed, kind of plays with that edge, that fire. When he brings that, I think definitely worthy of a leadoff guy. I think Nick Senzel's the same way. If Nick Senzel was healthy and hitting the way people expect, he'd be a perfect leadoff guy as well. So no qualms for me if that's the way it continues, because just a matter of getting guys on base for Winker and Castellanos. Because pitchers have to be freaking out when that happens, when you have two guys on base and one of those guys is coming up to the plate just with how hot they've been.
Right, exactly, and that comes to it's still early, but how much? Actually, I know Reds fans are talking about, but how much conversation nationally is Jesse Winker and Nick Castellanos getting as far as like MVP votes, and will it hurt them to be on the same team? As far as if they are into, they keep doing this throughout the year. As far as if they get into the MVP race, would it hurt them being on the same team as far as taking votes away from each other?
Maybe. I think, you don't know who's more valuable. Even covering this team, I couldn't tell who's Winker, Castellanos, who's been the more valuable player. But last year in the American League, it was Jose Abreu and Tim Anderson. I think they both finished top 3 or top 4. Abreu won. But it was one of those two where it was like back and forth the whole season, both having great seasons. And I think Tim Anderson in September at one point said, Abreu I think is more valuable or something. And that kind of shifted things towards Abreu. But so I don't think it's a negative thing, but just covering this team on a daily basis, I couldn't tell you who's more valuable. They both have streaks where both have been incredible. Yeah,
and that if it wasn't for those two, this team would be in just a world of trouble. They're having two of the greatest seasons that I've ever seen in my life, and if they're not here, I don't know what we would be doing. But let's get to Nick Senzel, who some people some of my friends like, oh, he's a bust. Like, he's not a bust. Oh, he's injury prone. Like, okay, maybe he might be a little injury prone, but he's not a bust. And what irritates me with Nick, it seems like every time he really starts getting on a hot streak, he gets injured. Like it happened. He started to get hot, he got injured. Votto was starting to get hot, he got injured. And it's just Nick Senzel. Do you think moving him around to multiple positions, do you think that kind of puts him in awkward positions to get injured more often, or because when I didn't even know he hurt his knee when he got hurt. I know he dove for a ball, but he didn't hit the wall or anything. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, he's getting knee surgery. It's like, what do you think they could do to help him to, stop getting so injured?
Yeah, that's kind of the big question for them. Obviously, I think you have to consider everything. It's just one of those where it's been so many different injuries. It's not like one thing if he just had like a bad ankle and it just kept popping up, or a bad knee, and that would just every season was the problem. But it seems like it's something different every season. So I think that's the toughest part, is trying to figure out what's causing it all. Maybe moving to the infield, which he started to do a little bit more just because Naquin and Shogo was coming back too in center field. So starting to play a little bit more infield. Maybe that reduces the stress a little bit on the injuries. But I'd say it's too early to say he's a bust too.
Yeah.
It's disappointing that he came in as a top 10 overall prospect in baseball. He got a standing ovation in his major league debut. People saw him as kind of, the next great hitter.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't been that so far, but I think he's only 24, maybe 25. So, I mean, it's still, Jesse Winker struggled with injuries at the beginning of his career too, not to this extent, but, his first 2 seasons were kind of cut short by injuries. And you look at what he's doing now, I think it's too early to say he's never going to be a good hitter. He's never going to be a great player. It's just one of those, it just seems like there's a new injury every time, every few months. And I couldn't tell you a reason why.
Yeah. Now let's get to Nyquist. Have you heard anything? Is he day to day? Did he like completely pull his hamstring? Did he just tweak it, or what? I didn't totally hear the whole report of where he's at health wise.
Yeah, it just sounds like he sounded more precautionary. I mean, that's the hope, at least.
Right.
I'm guessing it happened on that when he got picked off second base. Thought about going to third when Stevenson got thrown out at the plate, and then tried to dive back. Hamstrings are tricky, so I mean that's probably the toughest part, especially for an outfielder.
Yeah, so it seems like there's been a lot of. I heard John Sadak and Chris Welch talk about that this weekend, that there was a lot of soft tissue injuries this year, and I was just kind of thinking to myself, I wonder if it had anything to do with last year we only played 60 games. It was a really short season, and we're getting close to the 60 game point now. So is it a matter of just getting their bodies used to playing? 162 games and not 60 games. I mean, do you think that might be what's going on, or just it's just interesting that there's so many soft tissue injuries?
Yeah, I bet that's a big part of it. I mean, you look at what they were probably doing this time last year, as a lot of guys, I'm sure they're still staying in shape, but they weren't playing every day. They weren't in baseball mode for 3 or 4 months. Then they had to ramp up really quickly. And it's a baseball's a grind. I mean, that's just what happens. And I think soft tissue is kind of where it would show up the most. Is you're not used to playing 21 straight games without a day off. And I think last year it probably hit some injuries too. That every game mattered so much. I mean, if this was the last week of the season, guys are going to be playing through everything possible that they can. Now it's a little bit different when you see you still have 3 months left, and it's like, okay, I don't want to be hobbled for 3 months. That's not going to help the team either. Right,
exactly. Now, one good thing about the outfield situation with this Reds team, that is the deepest part of this ball club. Now, if Nyquist doesn't play, that means Shogo actually gets to play, which I'm all for. I'm a big Shogo fan. I'm nothing against Nyquist. I like Nyquist too. He's been a pleasant surprise, But I think this is a good opportunity for, if Nyquist is out for a little while, for Shogo to actually get an opportunity to play every day, because for some reason, David Bell does not play him that much, and I don't understand why. And it's really surprising to me, especially since Bob Castellini didn't want to spend that much money this year. You have one of your most expensive guys on the bench 90% of the time. That's been very shocking to me, that they haven't pushed more to get Shogo out there, basically because they're paying him a lot of money to sit on the bench or be a pinch hitter.
Yeah, and I think it has to do with Votto's out, Moustakas is out. That's a lot of power out of your lineup. And Nyquist has that, and Akiyama does not. And I think that probably played a factor in it, of saying, okay, you're not going to bat Shogo fourth. So, if you want power in the lineup, you're going to have to go with Nyquist. He was swinging the bat well. I think he's top 10 in the league in RBIs. So he's making the most of his opportunities. It surprised me that Shogo's didn't make a little bit more spot starts, maybe like 3 games for Nyquist, 1 for Shogo, something like that, right. Or two for one. So I was surprised that didn't happen a little bit more. And also Aristides Aquino's back in weeks too. So you really have a quite different outfield with all the guys healthy.
Yeah, that's the cool thing is we just came off this 4-game sweep of the Tweety Birds, and guys are starting to come back. Like I said, Votto will probably be back Tuesday. Aquino's coming back soon. Hopefully Moose will be back soon, but Michael Lorenzen, he's coming back. So we're starting to get healthy, which is a good thing. So hopefully all this is all turning around at the right time, and the Reds can hit their stride. Because even at the beginning of the year, and this is one thing I said when we were 6-1, I said, we're doing all this, and our starting pitching hasn't been that great. Votto wasn't hitting. Gino wasn't hitting. Garrett wasn't pitching that good. And we're doing all this then, and we're still winning. Well, it's June, and we're 4 games out. We're still in it, and it looks like people are starting to come around. I don't know about Gino, and I don't know about Garrett, but at least Gray's coming around. Luis Castillo's coming around, and guys are starting to get healthy. So hopefully the Reds could be hitting their stride. At least that's what I'm hoping we're getting to that point. Hitting their stride of playing the best ball that they play. Because I think this past weekend is the best all around baseball I've seen them play, from offense to defense to hitting. I mean, the double play that Tucker Barnhart pulled off was awesome. You had that play. You had Shogo with a diving catch. You had Naquin with a catch. Winker had a nice play. I mean, there's so many good plays that was kind of surprising. We haven't had a lot of good defensive plays this year. So what's your thoughts on, do you think the Reds are getting at the right stride here, or is this just, fairy dust that we're watching right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think with your point about how important these Milwaukee series is, I mean, you have Milwaukee this one, and then they go to Milwaukee and play them again in a week. So they'll have 6 games against them in, a pretty short window, 6 of their next 9 games against them. So I think that'll be kind of the big test, because like 2019, they swept the Houston Astros at Great American Ballpark. I don't know if you remember that one, but it was a 3-game sweep. They beat Wade Miley, Justin Verlander, and Garrett Cole 3 straight days. First Astros team had been swept in a long time, and they were hoping that was going to be a statement. And then, injuries piled up, and they obviously 2019 they didn't go very far.
Right.
So you don't try to look too much into one series. I mean, the Cardinals were banged up, so I could see it either way. There's a lot of encouraging signs. Obviously, you'd rather be in this position than a team that just got swept and now you're 7.
Right.
I think they're in a good spot.
Yeah, and the thing with beating and sweeping the Tweety Birds is, like I said, it's the first time no matter how down the Tweety Birds are, see, they always have our number, and they always beat us, and it's been since 1990 for us to sweep them in St. Louis. So it's not only that we swept them, it's who we swept, and how, to me, how big a momentum builder this could be for this team, because it's just been, they've always been a thorn in our side for how many years now, and to get that done, I think it's a really big confidence booster, especially Sunday's game. You blow a 7-run lead, and you still win. You did almost everything you could do wrong, and you still won the game. So to me, those are just good signs, good momentum things going into, hopefully rolls in to the Milwaukee series, which, like I said, Milwaukee is a very good team. Like you said, they're a very hot team right now, and it's going to be harder. You can't, if you blow a 7-run lead against Milwaukee, we're probably going to lose.
Yeah, but I mean, like going back to your point, I mean, the defense and everything stepping up. I mean, the Cardinals had the first game Thursday, they had the game time run at first base, when Barnhart turned that double play. The next night, they had the time run at the plate in their 5-2 win. The following game, I think the time run was at second base when they won Saturday. And then obviously, it's Lucas Sims stranded 2 guys on base with the 1-run lead yesterday. So it's one of those things where the Cardinals could have won any of those 4 games. It wasn't like they ran away with it. Sunday, the Reds probably should have run away with it. But, the fact that they were able to come away with 4 wins, 4 close wins, I think says a lot about where they're at. Just if you can win 1-run games and close games, I think that's the biggest sign that a team's growing and capable of winning, as the season goes on.
Yeah, that brings up to another stat I heard. I wish I would have wrote it down. But I think the Reds have a better if I'm wrong, tell me. But I think they have a better winning percentage this year in 1-run games than they had all of last year.
Yeah, that's probably right. And I can't remember if it was 2018 or 2019. They were really like 1-run games. They were terrible in. I mean, it's like 15 games below 500 in 1-run games. So the fact they're, you look at them in extra innings too. The Reds have been really, really good in extra innings. Obviously it's a little bit different with the rule, the runner at second base, but they've taken advantage of that as much as they could. And it's a great sign they're winning 1-run games, especially when we talk about the bullpen that they have. You would think they would lose more 1-run games because of their bullpen, but that hasn't been the case.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you the truth, I hate the ghost runner. I think it's the dumbest thing ever, but the Reds have completely taken advantage of that. And I know one time they did have the best record in extra inning games. I don't know because they haven't played one in a little while. But for a while there, they were playing them. Seemed like every week they had at least one or two. I know they had played them in a while. I know they did have the best record. I don't know if they still do or not. Do you know?
And they had the most wins by far. But yeah, I'm not sure. Just haven't looked in a while.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. How do you feel about some of the rule changes that they've made? Do you like the ghost runner, or how do you feel about it?
I actually like that one. Just because it adds some extra strategy to it, something different. To me, baseball is the one sport where fans left when overtime began. Like NFL, you go to overtime, fans are not going nuts. NBA,
right.
thing, NHL, same thing. Baseball is the one where it was like, 12th inning.
Well, somebody just hit a home run and in the game. Come on. I want to go home.
Exactly. It was just one of those. It just turned into like a home run derby, just waiting to see which team was going to hit one out.
Right.
So I'm all for that one. I don't like the 3 batter minimum. I don't think that really has any effect. It doesn't make the game any quicker, which was, I think, the point of the rule.
No.
So that one I'm not in favor of.
I mean, that's good. That's the other thing. I don't know if anything is really going to make the game. I mean, unless everybody pitches like Wade Miley, that makes the game quicker. I mean, other than that, I don't know what you do. And to me, it's not necessarily. To me, baseball is more exciting when there's action. There's guys on base. There's hitting and running. There's good defensive plays. It's to me, honestly, it's boring if it's a strikeout. Oh, that guy hit a home run. Wow, he hit it to the river. That's very impressive that he hit the ball to the river. But that's all the action I saw. I mean, I'd rather see some good defensive play, some guys stealing bases, stuff like that. And that's the way it was when I grew up. So, that's where I'm like, I think they worry about too much about trying to speed the game up, and they've kind of taken away what the game is. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I was talking to a St. Louis writer after that first win. It was 4-2 Reds win on Thursday, I believe.
That was fun.
It was a great, well-played game. I think it was 3 hours, but it was just one of those, the Reds hit their homers. The Cardinals were playing great small ball. They had great defense. It was one of those games that it was just a lot of fun to watch. And I think no one pays attention to like football pace of play. And football games are as long as, they seem longer now than they were 5 years.
Exactly. Well, they got all the commercials in there now.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, it's just there's not many hits. Obviously Reds fans have been lucky to watch Castellanos and Winker do what they do, but the league batting average is as low as I think it's an all-time low right now of any time. So if you get more hits, if you provide more action, I think fans aren't really going to care if a game's 5 minutes shorter or longer than what it usually is.
Well, that comes to the new. Well, I don't know if it's not a new rule. They're enforcing they can't have sticky stuff on their fingers now. And I think it's all to try to increase the off. I hate saying offense because to me, offense means scoring, and baseball doesn't necessarily mean scoring. It just means hitting the ball, putting it in play, So that's where I think that they're talking about lowering the mound again, or lowering it, right? Not raising it, lowering it.
Moving it back too.
Moving it back, yes. They're talking about all this stuff, and to me that's to increase the action. And to me, what would increase the action is if the players would actually try to just, which I know it's easier said than done, but they're Major League Baseball players, hit the ball instead of trying to hit a home run every time. If you're down, 0-2, shorten your swing up. Don't try to kill it. Just put the ball in play. Those are the philosophies of baseball. When I was a kid, that's what you did. If you were, you're 0-2 and you're swinging for the fences, dude, I might have got yanked out of the game by my coach. I'm like, what are you doing? Now it's like, oh, that's great. Like, no. And that's to me where they've changed their philosophy that striking out isn't a bad thing, which, you can look at the analytics or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the view of the game and the way it's played now. If you put a ball in play, it's more fun. Even if you hit it at somebody, it's still more fun than a strikeout. It just is.
Yeah. And I think, there's a lot of things that have gone into it. I mean, I think the way guys are being coached has changed. I mean, I think there's more of an emphasis on homers. You're going to get paid more if you drive in more runs, if you hit more homers. That's just kind of a fact of life. And I think, changing the spin on the baseball, if you can kind of get rid of the sticky stuff, I just think it's that much harder to hit. And I think that's why guys are doing a little bit more in terms of swinging a little bit more for the fences. Is just, hey, if we can't hit this guy's best slider, if this guy throws a great slider, there's no chance of me hitting it or doing any damage against it. I may as well swing for the fence, and if I run into one, I run into one. Right. I mean, strikeouts used to be embarrassing to strike out, and now it's like, it's not that big of a deal. So, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I just think there's not enough emphasis on hitting the ball the other way. There's not enough emphasis on two-strike approach and that type of thing. But I think it's been trending this way for like the last 10 years, and it's going to take a while to get back to what it was. I do think it's cyclical. It'll go back and forth, but it's going to take a little while.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, too, is guys are coming out of the bullpens throwing 90, 96 miles an hour. You don't have to swing that hard. If you hit it right, they'll provide the power. That's another thing I don't get. Everybody is trying to swing so hard. You don't have to. If you hit the ball right, it's going out. So anyway, let's see here. Got a couple comments here, and I'll let you get on out of here. Greg says, I saw a tennis match that was almost 4 hours. Rob Manfred should run the USTA and come up with ways to shorten tennis matches. There you go. We'll see. Rob Manfred is, I call him the clown. He's not one of my favorite guys either. I don't even know if he actually watches baseball, to be honest, some of the decisions he makes. But Bobby, I enjoyed having you on the show. Tell everybody your Twitter handle, and you got any cool articles that you've written here lately you want to tell people about? Or
yeah, just go to Cincinnati.com. That's where all the articles will be. I had a conversation with Nick Kroll that'll be up tomorrow. And then my Twitter handle at NightengalJR. It should be an exciting series against the Brewers, so hopefully a lot to tweet about.
Exactly. Exactly. It was a lot of fun this weekend. So, Bobby, I enjoy it. Thank you for coming on the show, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, my pleasure. Glad we could do this.
All right. Thanks, man. See ya. All right, guys. That was cool. I enjoyed having Bobby on here. I like talking some Reds. I guess Steve was tired of hearing about the yeah, we know the Reds swept the Cardinals. Okay, I'm going to listen to WLW now. Like, all right. Go check out my boy Lance. I enjoy Lance. But I hope you guys like that. Tomorrow I have who do I have on tomorrow? I forgot. It's not Evan McFillay's. Let's see here. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking some fantasy football. I know it's off season, but I know there's guys out there who are, fantasy fanatics. So from Underdog Sports, we're going to have Hayden Winks on talking some fantasy football. So it should be an interesting conversation. I am not really a big fantasy guy. I am going to join the Orange Arrows Fake. And if you guys have not done that yet, I recommend that you do it because it's going to a good cause. And plus, you guys, if you don't, I'm going to dominate the league. I'm going to win anyway. Just kidding. All right, let's get to Jungle to the Hall. I'm trying to mention this as much as I can. We are less than 2 weeks out. If you have not registered yet, please register. It's on Bengal Jim's Twitter page. He's got a pin to the top. Go there, register. Make sure we get as many Bengals fans as we can get there. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know you guys probably heard Jim on almost every radio station around here in Cincinnati. So make sure we get as many Bengals fans as we get up there so we get Ken Riley and Ken Anderson into the Hall of Fame. It's all free. All you got to do is show up, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Let me get to the Facebook groups that let me live stream, and I appreciate every single one of them. And they are Houday Nation. Get it right here. Cincinnati Bengals, the Jungle. Bengals Nation. Bengals Houday Nation. Bearcat Country. Ohio State Bucknuts, the Ice Bar. And you can follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Twitter handle is Jeff A. Trenopol. That's Trennepohl. I'm on TikTok under Sports with Strawberry Ice. The handle is Iceman90. I'll be pulling the sound off later on tonight if you missed any of the interview with Bobby Nightengal. And you don't want to watch for an hour? You can listen to it. Check it out on pretty much wherever you get your podcast. I'm on BeamPod, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes. Like I said, pretty much wherever you get your podcast. I'm there. YouTubers, we're doing awesome. 1,128 subscribers. I appreciate every single one of you guys. This has been so much fun. I enjoy doing this. I'm glad you guys enjoy watching me. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors about Sports with Strawberry Ice. People are wondering where Jeremy's at. Jeremy, I think he's going to be on tomorrow. We will see what happens. He's trying like crazy to come back on the show. He really misses it. It's killing him that he can't come on. But hey, when you got to work, you got to work. Got to make that money. So hopefully Jeremy will be back on tomorrow. But until then, remember one thing and one thing only. And that is, you don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati. So act like it. Who dey? Go Reds. And that's just sports, baby. See ya!